People support these people because these people pitch a script that they are victims of law and justice while being alleged leaders, ignoring the fact that these people claim to be leaders as well, yet they don't have legal matters to deal with and live happy lives. The difference between the two groups are the first group did break laws and the second group didn't. The first group are acting like real guilty people trying to avoid punishment. Basic psychology shows that people project goodness into others they don't know, especially when there's something wanted or needed. People see those who are more ambitious, who take the extra step, as greater than them, despite their being able to relate to them. And this is a sign of a successful marketing campaign. If these supporters were able to meet these people that they support, their illusion would be shattered. People I know some of these people that are being supported, and they all say the same, that these people are a-holes and fraudsters. Hey Canadians who want to separate, haven't you learned from history that when the USA gets involved, they break apart countries, they weaken the people, they make the countries manageable. Look what they did in Yugoslavia, the former Yugoslavia. They broke it up, so now, as a descriptive, all the provinces are little tiny countries and divided the people, just like they're doing here in Canada. Hello, it's August 2025. Now this video is inspired by a video I had watched from Maverick News channel, and he was speaking with a woman with regards to an interview he did with someone by the name of James Bauder, doesn't matter. Now this James person, I did do a dedicated video about him, as well as a video short more or less focusing on him, and somewhat mentioned him in previous videos. And this all has to do with the fake heroes of the so-called convoy of freedom. And I'm not going to be really getting into the fake heroes of the so-called freedom convoy, whatever it's called, but I really want to just talk about this James person during his interview. Now, I never really listened to anything that he had to say in any great length, but thanks to Maverick News, I had an opportunity to really listen to what this James guy has to say. Now I watched this review between this woman and Maverick News, and I even watched the interview with Maverick News and James. And actually a whole bunch of things really stood out to me. But one of the things that really stood out to me right off the get-go was how important it was for James to make the claim that he was the founder of the convoy. And not only that, but he was trying to support it with a bunch of nonsense. And even as far as with his criminal charges, how he was saying, I'm the only one that has these 2 or 3 charges, no one else did, only me. It really made me wonder why it's so important for him that he stresses this type of thing. Now, this kind of ties in with something else, which I'm going to get into later in this video, but really, if the claims that he was making, for example, with having U.S. military and U.S. government being behind the scenes, giving him advice and everything else, makes sense that they're using him as a useful idiot, because really he has no idea, for example, the long-term consequences of his shenanigans. For example, going to the US, wanting to claim political asylum, which is really him trying to avoid being accountable for the crimes that he committed. So, and if this be true, his claims be true, just for the sake of argument for the moment, then yeah, they're using him as a useful idiot to break apart, for example, Canada, and get everyone all riled up and everything else. For example, the western provinces separating from the eastern provinces and everything else. He's just being played. Now, let's just set that aside for a moment. The other reason why it's so important for him to maintain this identity that he's created in his mind is because he is extremely delusional. Now, could be a bit of both here, but regardless, everything ties in together. This guy not only drank the Kool-Aid, but drank the whole jug. Because, again, the claims that he's making, and he's saying he has all this evidence. During this interview with this news, he was saying, oh, he knew this for 100%, this and that, and then he couldn't even see that he was being set up through just questions. Now, he wasn't ambushed, as later he would claim in an email to Maverick News. He was being asked questions, and it was his answers that exposed him. So he couldn't even see that he was being set up, which ties into, can he see that he's being played as a useful idiot by, for example, a foreign government or somebody? Anyway, so like he was making claims, for example, that there was military from Ukraine and all this other stuff coming here and people being murdered and everything else. And then through the line of questioning comes out, well, yeah, he doesn't really know, and then he tends to agree that it never happened. That kind of shows you, it does show you a weak-minded person. Keep in mind, this whole useful idiot thing that has some grand illusions of who he is and everything else. And as he's talking during this interview, I'm just trying to remember some highlights here that really stuck out to me. He has no idea how the legal system works, how laws are made, and he relies heavily, for example, on, well, I have 7 lawyers, and all the lawyers are saying the same thing. What I notice with the commoner is, say they, whatever it is, a civil, criminal, whatever, a lawyer may say something to them because, you know, they're defending them. So they're trying to create an argument that will help their client. And so they would share that with the client. And the clients, more often than not, interpret that as, oh, yeah, see, this is something absolute. And this James guy is doing the very same thing. He's saying, oh, lawyers are saying this. He's confusing, for example, strategies that his lawyers may have, and they may all end up concluding the same or even similar or remotely similar conclusions on a strategy, and he's concluding that, well, see, everyone's saying the same thing. Yeah, because they're getting paid to defend them. And it's almost sad to see how he is being manipulated, played, and he's playing his part. And there's so many issues surrounding him fleeing Canada, leaving his family behind, not taking them with him to seek asylum, political asylum, United States, where United States has an extradition treaty with Canada. And we see in the news today how their ICE agents are deporting everyone that they can. And one of the things that Maverick had extracted from him, and this James guy was too stupid to see the bigger picture. The point is that if he is successful, for example, that this would make Canada a threat, and I'm just going to kind of condense everything, a threat to the U.S. because Canada's not safe, it's tyrannical, everything else. And he's like, yeah, you're hitting this, nailing this on the head and everything. And if that's the case, then that compromises relations between Canada and the U.S. A relationship that has been good for many, many, many decades. And so his stupidity, if successful, would compromise all that. And really just listening to him talk, and if you pay attention, you can really see his delusions just burning right through, like a big neon sign over his head. And what really is sad about this thing is how many people are buying into his delusion and things that he says. And one of the things that just popped into my head was how he's saying that he's in the States, remote location, undisclosed, and this is the price for freedom. He never accomplished freedom. He never accomplished anything. The convoy never accomplished anything. It didn't. Some would argue, oh, it brought people together for a big party or whatever. Maybe, sure, okay, I'll give you that. But it didn't stop anything. And I've stated and I've shown how I clearly stated in videos in 2020, 2021, and even in 2022 when it would end, and it did. And I even explained how to figure it all out. Nothing to do with this nonsensical convoy. This guy has built his personal identity, perhaps even his so-called professional identity, whatever that may be, around the lies that he's been telling himself and others. And he's bringing in other people, the commoners, to support him. And this has really been the underlying issue with all these fake heroes of the so-called freedom, convoy freedom, or whatever it's called, because it's people like this James that are taking away attention, efforts, resources from people who are actually, for example, trying to fight for truth, justice, and freedom. And none of these people, including myself, never sought out to do these things. Things were thrown at us in our lives, and here we are. But it's people like James and his delusion. It just, and it muddies the water on people who are actually suffering at the hands of, as a very loose descriptive, tyranny. These people like James, they've caused their own troubles. And I found it very interesting how, for example, even in a video short that I made, why them and not others, how the people, there's some people of this call themselves leaders of the convoy, which he dismisses everyone else and he's the only leader, which tells you something about his psychosis, how they're fake. And I asked the question, well, why is it some of these so-called leaders are dealing with criminal offenses and everything else and others are not? And I find it very interesting how he just taps around it and basically dismisses it all. And he's even given out strategies that his lawyers have taken, for example, keeping his case till the very last to see how all the other cases will go. These are the things you don't share publicly. Now, his lawyers are, yeah, they're going to be doing their job because they're getting paid. Much of the payments are coming through donations, whether it be from individuals or organizations, but they're getting paid and they're creating strategies and defenses because that's their job. Whether they agree with it or not, doesn't matter. That's your job. And then he's talking about, for example, how he has all these people in the U.S., high-profile people, high-profile lawyers, generals, people all the way to the White House, the current White House, affidavits and everything else that are going to be submitted. Well, for one thing, an affidavit is not a standalone document. An affidavit can be submitted as, I'm going to try to simplify this, as, how would I put it in layman's terms, as anticipated testimony, and the person who signed off on the affidavit would be questioned to it. It's just not a standalone document where it's like, oh, it says it here and we move on. No, it doesn't work that way. This guy really has no idea of anything. Apparently he has a degree in, just remember, something to do with government management or something, whatever that means. Never heard of it. But anyway, just because you have a degree doesn't mean that you're intelligent. And he really downplays himself as, oh, I'm just a truck driver. And I mean, there's so many issues surrounding this guy. Again, the point is how these people are muddying the waters for real people who are facing injustice and tyranny, and perhaps even living in the aftermath of it, and distracting everyone else from paying attention, because they want the limelight, they want all the glory. There's no glory in whistleblowing, or there's no glory in fighting for truth, justice, and freedom. But this guy, if you pay attention to that interview with Maverick News, you really see how mentally unstable he is, and people follow him and praise him. Unbelievable. Anyway, that's all I really want to say about James, and I just want to be very clear. There's no malice on my part. There's no malicious intent. I'm simply highlighting observations that anyone can observe, and again address the so-called fake heroes and the so-called convoy of freedom and why I'm addressing this. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about this. Chances are I'm not going to say anything more about this guy. I really don't care about him or his delusional efforts, but for what it's worth. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. I've expressed frustration with how people will support, promote, donate, throw lots of money at, for example, fake heroes of the so-called convoy, while ignoring real people who are actually fighting for truth, justice, and freedom, while sacrificing everything. However, there's another group of people who I would call online celebrities, or also known as influencers, who merely read things online and give commentary to what they've read, which at best is their mere opinions based on their limited knowledge bases, lack of critical thinking skills, and perhaps even not being able to separate their emotions when talking, sharing their commentary. And people promote these people as well, while these people offer no first-hand insight, knowledge, experience, or even evidence of what they talk about, yet people will promote them. And don't even get me started on these people who do so-called reaction videos, taking someone else's video and using green screen, embedding themselves in the video, pointing and giving facial expressions, looking very stupid.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me all the time, When's it gonna get easier? When you die.